I've been a member of Amnesty International for about 10, 12 years actually, before even we started System of a Down, and the actual work of Amnesty had always attracted me. The letter writing campaigns and the actual effectiveness of helping, people get out of prison, people that were put there, as human rights abuses, I've never played in Turkey, and I've never traveled in Turkey, though I'd like to. I'd like to go to Istanbul and have a lot of friends that are from there. And the first time that I dealt with the issue of having to travel through Turkey was in 1998 on System's first European tour. We were opening up for Slayer, actually. And so we were playing all of Europe, and there was an Istanbul date. So we got together with the band and said, well, what are we going to do about this? Can we speak our minds there? Can we say what we want to say there? So we actually went through the process of calling the promoter, to the label in Turkey and everyone, and said, can you guarantee at least our safety if we are speaking the truth of what we want to say on stage, regarding the Armenian genocide or regarding anything for that matter. I've never played in a country where I can't get on stage, play a song, and then say what I feel as an artist. I've never been able to play in a country that I can't do that, So I was wondering how that was going to be, and the response were like, if you're going to say anything regarding the Armenian genocide, if you're going to say anything regarding human rights, if you're going to speak out, don't come, because we can't protect your freedom. And I was like, well, that was '98 with the band first starting and whatnot. So we respectfully canceled that date, but we explained why we were doing so. We wrote an article and posted it on our website at the time saying that, look, we can't come there because we can't speak our minds, and we've never played a country where we can't speak our minds. So that was the first interaction. Since then, there's been many back and forth things since I've been involved with activism having to do with Article 301 and Amnesty International, as well as the film Screamers and raising awareness to the Armenian genocide because of my own grandfathers, my grandparents being survivors of genocide. Well, the threats come interestingly subtly through media fabrications planted within the Turkish media having to do with the band. For example, a few years back, there was a fabrication in the Turkish press saying that we printed derogatory statements about Turks on one of our tickets, which was during supposedly during the Slayer tour, which they weren't even our tickets, they were Slayer tickets. And then there was some other fabrication, so we had to put something on our website basically saying that we've never said or done those things. These are obvious fabrications because they want to vilify us in front of our own fans in Turkey. Now remember, we have a lot of fans in Turkey. Although we haven't played there a live show, but we have a lot of fans that have bought our records and merch and whatnot. And it was actually an occasion where our fans stood up and spoke out for us against the government. The reconciliation efforts started when Turkey realized that Obama was going to become president, and that they were going to have someone in the White House that had a strong stand having to do with the recognition of the Armenian genocide. So all that news started then. And what has happened since? Well, while there's been supposed talks of reconciliation, on the other hand, Turkey's still spending millions of dollars in its denialist campaign in the United States, in Europe, and elsewhere. I'm all for reconciliation, ultimately. I'm all for cultural exchange. Like I said, I want to go visit Istanbul. I want to play. We've got a lot of fans there. I'm all for trading music and trading stories and food. There's so many similarities in cultures in the Caucasus that we know that from the diaspora. When I come across Turkish fans while I play in Europe or elsewhere, even in the United States. So I think that's important. But again, what is our premise here? We can't short sell a genocide. We can't use it, as Carla said, well, as political currency. There was an internet sign-up of an apology, a forgiveness campaign, exactly, and an apology for the victims of the Armenian genocide by a lot of Turkish scholars and intellectuals and students and citizens, and that was done in Turkey, and they took the risk to their own lives to do something like that. That, as an Amnesty member, I'm like really appreciative of that, to have the guts to do something like that in that kind of situation. I think it's important. I mean, if we lose our freedom of speech, if we lose our ability to communicate and to speak up to power, then we're lost. Well, we've had the postcard campaign with Amnesty International regarding Article 301 to send postcards to the Prime Minister of Turkey in asking them to repeal Article 301 and its draconian ways of putting people in jail for speaking their minds. I think we should continue doing that. But the letter writing campaigns and contacting congressional people in the U.S. like we contact our congressional representatives to make them aware of the topic and to push it through. I have a huge respect for amnesty activists because I've been one for the last 12 years. Before I started System of a Down, before I did any of my activism work based on music, I've been an activist with Amnesty, and because of the actual effectiveness of Amnesty, not for any other reason. I've seen people, I have an organization called Axis of Justice with Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, and we've worked with Axis as an organization as well. And through our mutual campaigns, mostly through Amnesty's activism, I've seen a lot of prisoners of conscience released. There is no substitute for that work. I think it's amazing work, and it's got to be continued and expanded.